If you have an upcoming trip to Sri Lanka, don't skip this video because I spent 30 days traveling across this country and here are 40 things you definitely need to know before planning your own trip. From visas, scams, food, culture, when to go, what to do, I have covered everything in this video, so let's go. Visas. Most travelers need an ETA. Apply only on the official website, which is eta.gov.lk. It costs around $50, usually processed within 24 hours. But I would recommend applying at least a week before traveling just to be safe. Weather. It's tropical and humid. Average is around 27 to 30 degrees. Around the beaches it can be very hot, but at the same time if you go to Yala and Nuwara Eliya in the hills, it is pretty cool. Monsoon seasons. Sri Lanka has two different monsoons. Southwest has monsoon between May and September, which affects Colombo, Galle and the south coast. Northeast is December to February, affecting Jaffna, Trichonmali and the east coast. The trick is to plan around these seasons because there's always a dry side somewhere. SIM card. Definitely buy one at the airport. Dialog and Mobitel are the most reliable ones. I had Dialog. A 30 GB plan can cost around $8 to $15. Speeds are decent and much better than relying on Wi-Fi. Getting there. All international flights land at Colombo airport. From there, you can catch a taxi to your hotel or pre-book a transfer to your destination. There's also an option to catch a tuk-tuk if you're staying in Colombo. Buses. Local buses are dirt cheap, but they are not luxurious and may not have a fixed timing. They also can be noisy, crowded, and often stop a lot, taking a lot more time than usual. You can take them for the experience and price, but not for comfort. Trains. Book tickets at Want to Go Asia or at train stations itself. However, they sell out fast. If reserved tickets are gone, don't worry. Unreserved tickets are unlimited, just less comfortable. Kandy to yala scenic train. This 7-hour train ride is world famous. Beautiful blue train, open doors, tree plantations everywhere. You have to do it. I recommend booking second class, but if you want AC, first class is the way to go. But honestly, if you don't find tickets, third class unreserved with locals is also part of the fun. A lot of people do Kandy to Yala, which is very packed. However, I did Yala to Kandy the other way around and I found the tickets only 3 days before the train. Also, this was during very peak season, so I recommend doing that. Hiring tuk-tuks. You can rent your own tuk-tuk for about $15 to $20 a day. You need an international license for that, or you can just flag one down. Always agree on a price first or use Pick Me app when available. The route. A classic loop is Colombo, Sigiriya, Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Yala, South Coast beaches and back to Colombo. This hits most highlights in 2 to 3 weeks. I did something almost similar. However, instead of starting from Colombo to Sigiriya, I went Colombo to Galle and went anti-clockwise. My itinerary is linked right here. You can see everything I did in 30 days in this particular video. Currency. Sri Lanka uses Sri Lankan rupee. $1 is about 300 LKR, but the exchange rates change. So check that before you go. You can exchange a small amount at airport. And once you're out in the city, you can just go to bank and get the best rate. Or you can use a travel card to get money out of ATMs. Cash versus card. Big hotels take cards, but street food, buses, homestays are cash only. ATMs are very common in cities, less so in rural areas, so always have cash handy. Also, ATMs charge a certain fee, so don't take small amounts out. What to pack? Definitely pack light cotton clothes, a waterproof layer, comfy walking shoes, a scarf or sarong for temples, a plug adapter, a small first aid kit, and copies of important documents. Don't forget slippers and throw in some swimwear for the beaches. What to wear? Although you'll find people wearing a lot of different types of clothing, however, Sri Lanka is still conservative. Generally, I dressed very modestly. However, on beaches, I would wear a swimwear, but if I had to go from a beach to a cafe, I would throw in a shirt and a sarong just to cover myself up. In hill country of Yala and Nuwara Eliya, I needed a hoodie because the mornings and nights can get chilly. And if you want to blend in more, avoid loud logo tourist gear. Just simple breathable pieces work best on camera and in person. Temple etiquette, shoes off, hats off. We got told off because we were wearing a hat and had an umbrella. You cannot cover your head in temples. Always face the Buddha respectfully, never pose with your back to a statue. Even selfies can be considered disrespectful. And make sure you're wearing modest clothing when you're going into temples. Entry fees. Foreigners pay higher. For example, Sigiriya Rock is $30 for foreigners, but for a SAARC citizen like Indians, Nepalis, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, it's often half priced. However, you will expect to pay between $10 to $30 for entry fees. Language. Sinhala is the official language in the South Central, Tamil is in the North and East, but English is widely understood, especially in tourist areas, so there is no language barrier. How many days are enough? At least 2 weeks to do justice. But if you only have 7 to 10 days, pick a few main places and just do that. Don't pack everything into a small trip. How affordable is Sri Lanka? Well, mid-range travelers spend around $40 to $70 per day. Backpackers can survive on $30 to $35 per day. It also depends on the popularity of the place. Some things can be very cheap at certain places, whereas the same thing can be very expensive at a different place if it's popular. Sri Lanka is cheap, but it is not as cheap as Southeast Southeast Asia, still budget friendly. Tipping culture? Well, it's not compulsory, but if you give a tip, it is very well appreciated. However, it's not expected. Tap water, don't drink straight from the tap. Use bottled water or a reliable filter bottle. I kept a refillable bottle and refilled with filter water whenever it was available. Scams. Most common ones are overpriced tuk-tuks and fake gem shops. Also, there are guides who latch on and then demand money. Be polite but firm with a no thank you and keep going. Rideshare apps. Pick Me works like Uber. It is reliable in Colombo, Negombo, Kandy, Galle, and Yala. Emergency numbers: 119 for police, 110 for ambulance, 118 for tourist police. Save these and I hope you never need them. Wildlife. Safaris in Yala National Park or Udvalave National Park is a highlight. Elephants and leopards live here. Whale watching in Mirissa is seasonal but unforgettable. You can also visit Wilpattu National Park or other hidden national parks in Sri Lanka. They are beautiful. I recommend booking reputable tour operators and keeping a safe distance from the wildlife. It's the jungle. Women's safety. This is my experience. Overall, Sri Lanka felt more safe than many places I've visited, but I didn't have the best experience with local men at times. Staring was very common to the point that it made me uncomfortable, and on one occasion a man pinched me as well. So just one tip is be extra cautious. I still met incredibly kind, helpful people, but I recommend to dress modestly, avoid being alone in poorly lit or deserted areas at night, and trust your gut. If something feels off, get to a public place and ask for help. Food. Sri Lankan cuisine is underrated. You have to try rice and curry, hoppers, kottu roti, and fresh seafood on the coast. Best things to do? Climb Pidurangala Rock to see the Lion's Rock. Hike Little Adams Peak, explore Galle Fort, ride the scenic train, and drink tea in Novara Elia. Wi-Fi. It's available pretty much everywhere, but the speed is really bad. I needed to work remotely during my trip and I was struggling. So I highly recommend getting Dialog SIM with maximum data available because you will need it. Don't rely on the Wi-Fi there. 2 non-negotiables: sunscreen and mosquito repellent. The UV index is really strong and you have to have sunscreen at all times. And mosquitoes are everywhere. So I recommend go to a supermarket in Sri Lanka, buy an electric mosquito repellent and carry it everywhere with you. And keep a spray for on the go. Travel insurance? It's not mandatory, but I highly recommend keeping it because medical costs are pretty high for foreigners in Sri Lanka. I personally always use Safety Wing Nomad insurance. It's reliable, cost effective, and covers almost everything. Links in the description box. Check it out for yourself. PDAs, please keep it low-key. Public displays of affection are frowned upon in many conservative areas. Hand-holding is fine, but don't go overboard. Let's be respectful of the culture and the people of the country we're visiting. Again, Sri Lanka is still a conservative country. Where to stay? Hostels are surprisingly pricey. Homestays are cheaper, authentic, and come with home-cooked meals. You can also look at hotels if you want to splurge. Surfing. Velikama and Hiriketia are beginner-friendly. Arugam Bay is world-class for advanced surfers, and if you are a surfer, you will have a blast here. Reality check on travel times. The distances look small on a map, but Sri Lanka's roads are often winding and traffic can make things slow. A 100-kilometer drive might take 3 to 5 hours depending on the route and road quality. So keep that in mind and always build buffer time for travel days and flights. Ceylon tea. Visit a tea plantation in Novara Elia or Ella. Don't just drink it, do a guided tour to see how it's made and why it's one of the best in the world. North versus South Sri Lanka. South, touristy, lively beaches. North, offbeat, few tourists, strong Tamil culture. It's worth visiting Jaffna if you have time. Wild elephant encounters. Yes, we all want to see them in the wild, but they can also be dangerous. We actually avoided walking around early morning and after sunset in Sigiriya because locals warned us elephants sometimes wander around those areas. They do look gentle from afar, but they can be unpredictable if you get too close. Always admire from a distance. It's both safer for you and respectful for them. Early mornings. Start off early if you want to beat the heat and crowds. Sunrise hikes like Pidurangala Rock are magical at sunrise. Also, Nine Arch Bridge is way less crowded at that time of the day. Lastly, don't rush. Sri Lanka looks small, but there is so much to do here. Give yourself time to enjoy each stop instead of cramming it all in. And that's your complete first-timer's guide to visit Sri Lanka. 40 things to know before you go. I promise if you keep these in mind, your trip will be smoother and so much more enjoyable. If you found this helpful, give it a like. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited to see in Sri Lanka. Subscribe to the channel and safe travels.